Okay, so we're doing something not regular, but we want to finish the mimer that we started last week on um the mimer we started last week on Parshas Shemais. We're going to start a new mimer starting Monday, a mimer on Parshas Ve'era. Okay, so we'll finish off the mimer, a little faster. We're holding page 316. So the idea is like this. We'll catch up as we're studying. So it says the idea is like this. Tehine, klas avodah avodah sakrishma. What the main avodah that we have here is the avodah of Shema. Kidua, shebirkishma yesh ramach tevim keneged ramach mitzvos asay. We know there's 248 letters in the Shema, in the first parsha, which make up the 200, which represent the 248 positive commandments. U'kamoishin is bar b'mamorim shofneza, as the Rebbe spoke about before, sheklas avodah the krishma hu inyan mesiras nefesh. That the idea of the kriyashma is the idea that a person reaches self-sacrifice. Mizeh nimshach, meaning giving up your ruts and your want for Hashem. Mizeh nimshach, ha-mesiras nefesh l'chol mitzvah prat. When a person accepts upon themselves the mesiras nefesh, in Shema gives the person the ability to have mesiras nefesh for every specific mitzvah as you approach it. It brings down through the Shema. We bring down flow into the intellect. That's why after a person commits mesiras nefesh, the Torah mitzvahs, to mitzvahs, we say v'hoya dvar me'el, which is the idea of moichin, which is intellect, which is if you debarta bam, to speak the words, the Kayal Torah is referring to Torah. Bechinas moichin, that's the intellect, where the mitzvahs are more connected to the midas. What is the idea to bring down the flow of godliness into the person's mind? Is a person has to first have the underlying acceptance of the of mesiras nefesh, of sacrifice for Torah, for godliness. Why do you have to have mesiras nefesh in order to have the amshacha into the moichin? Well, the Eibishter, the essence of God, which we're talking about, we're trying to reach the essence of God, that the essence itself should come down, not just the soif, not just the encompassing life, but the essence itself should come down. Is the ma'ila mechinas moichin kana? It's beyond intellect, and the idea is that so therefore, how could we reach that there should be hashpa of flow into intellect? So how could we bring down from a higher place, from beyond intellect into intellect? What touches atzmus is when a person has self-sacrifice. If you want to even bring that within intellect, you should be connected to beyond intellect. It means not just limited to rational or to reason. And by connected beyond intellect, you have to have a foundation of mesiras nefesh. There's no way to get out of yourself unless you're ready to give away yourself. You can't hold on to self, which is mesiras nefesh means to give away the ratzon, to give my desire for Hashem. It's not about mesiras nefesh is not only defined by killing you, for dying for God. It's actually specifically defined by living for God. But you're living for God, giving up your ratzon, giving up your nefesh. What's important to you? David was able to help King David, who was elevated the Torah into Hashem. And for that, you have to give up self. You have to be moiser nefesh. The Rebbe adds, we know that in the head itself, there's the brain, and there is the skull, and the skull represents the lower part of Keser. It's like the crown over the person's head. In a person's mind, in the actual brain, not everyone thinks the same. So we see the very fact that the brain is different for each person is because it's according to the individual. Theoretically, the skull is equal. It means obviously different sizes and different etc. But there's no, you can't say, wow, you have a different skull. Yeah, different brain, you have a different way of thinking, but the skull is equal. Which is v'hamshachas b'chinas kalguso idea avoida derusa deliba shlema mitam v'das. In order to get the skull, which represents that the very fact that it's equal by everyone, shows that it's beyond the character of the individual. So it's also connects. How do you get it? You have to have rusa deliba. You have to get beyond tam v'das. You have to have a desire to Hashem beyond reason, because reason is within moyach, which is within the brain, and that's why your brain is separate from the next person. That to get to the to the Reusa Deliba, the desire is the desire to get to the beyond the intellect. So there's an equality. It's not because a person's smarter, therefore you have a deeper connection to the Galgolis, to the skull. The skull is beyond intellect, beyond the differences of the person's intellect. On Rosh Hashanah, when we reach beyond self, it says everyone stands together. The leaders of the tribes, even the wood choppers and the water carriers. Everyone together stands together. Why? Because you're connecting. Again, Rosh Hashanah is also Kabbalah Sol. You're connecting to something beyond the differences of the people. Rosh Hashanah's idea of getting connected with the yearning of the heart that's beyond reason, and if it's beyond reason, there's no difference between the heads of the Jewish people and the woodchopper. And when you have this yearning of the soul, of the heart, the liba of the heart, so then you could bring down the galgoles, which is the idea of the beyond the seichel into the person's reality. The idea is to try to connect out of self. In order to do that, you have to have a serious nefesh. You have to get out of self. And so too, when we do our avodah here in this world, so it creates. That's why I say we make God. What does it mean to make God? You're making that God should be mamshich, should lower himself into the specific spheres, into the specific attributes. For instance, when a person does acts of kindness or charity, gives tzedakah, the chesed and kindness, that creates the attribute of chesed within Hashem, because God is mirroring our actions. What does it mean to be strong? To conquer your Yetzer Hara. You build the midah gvura by Hashem. When a person has compassion on someone else, and it says about Yaakov who kissed Rachel, by he cries, by Yaakov crying, which is the feeling of compassion, he builds the idea of Teferes, which is Rachmanis, beauty. So to the parts of the midas that levarmi gufay, the netzach, where the person is the midah of natseach, the person perseveres, and hoid, acknowledgement, which is both beyond, outside of the character of the person. Shem levarmi gufay, outside of the body, like the limbs, the legs are outside of the torso. Shakasher aviyira misalmim. What does it mean in an avodah? What does it mean, perseverance and acknowledgement? When you're not feeling the love, the avivir or misalmim, the love that you have for Hashem, it's not a moment of feeling. It's misalmim. It goes into hiding. It's not visible. The feeling is not visible within the person. You have to have the resolution, and that's the feet. That's the netzach v'hoid that you resolve, which is netzach, and you acknowledge that nevertheless, even if you don't feel it, this is the way it is. I'm not feeling the love, but I know the love. And I'm committed to the love because of the netzach v'hoid. That's why netzach is very important in our generation. And they're broken up into two different attributes. The inni netzach, what's the idea of netzach? Who shakasher avir misalmim, when a person is not feeling the love for God. La'achri tefillah, for instance, when is the time in Chassidus that it says that the love is not revealed? When you're davening, you're standing there before God, so you're in the moment of love. You're saying Shema Yisrael, but you move on. You go out to work, so you're not conscious of your feelings as you were in davening. Even a person who truly serves God, the Rebbe says. But when you finish davening, it's not the same. You're moving on. Your tension is not there. So how do you keep it? You need that the midah of perseverance. What's it mean, perseverance? Netzach is also everlasting. That although it's not feeling, you're not letting the fact that you're not feeling that you're going to walk away from godliness. You don't get overwhelmed by the fact that there's distractions. You don't allow the fact that there's a distraction, and there is a distraction. There's a distraction because you're not in a place of davening now. But you're not going to allow that distraction to get in the way of the resolve to be connected. And it doesn't take any effect. The person's going to say, well, I'm not in shul, so I'm not going to be the same Jew I am. I'm not going to be committed. Nothing in the actual performance of the mitzvah is going to be affected because you have the resolve. You have the netzach. And by a person being in that situation, where you don't have the love, and nevertheless you have the perseverance to continue to do what you have to do, that builds the midas and netzach within Hashem. Netzach Yisrael lo yishakar, like the Navi says in Shmuel. V'ani havayah lo yishnisi, God doesn't change. The idea of not changing is the mid of netzach. Netzach Yisrael, the everlasting of God, of the Jewish people, lo yishakar, there's no lying, there's no change. V'inin hahoid, that's the attribute of netzach. What's the attribute of hoid? Who avoided by the acknowledgement. The hine shekol the hine seich the hine seichel hu mitzias. Intellect is tangible. But something that's beyond seichel understands something, but something that is beyond mitzias, beyond something that you could. There's no comprehension of it. You can't comprehend something that's beyond you. You could know that there's something beyond your being, but you can't grasp it because it's beyond you. You can't know what's beyond yourself. You acknowledge. It means you acknowledge that though I don't understand, there's deeper levels of godliness that I can understand. But I acknowledge that it exists. That's my Haida. Haida means that you don't have to understand everything in order to be connected to it. You're allowed to understand that there's something beyond you. There's something beyond your comprehension. And you're minded that it exists. You don't understand it, so I don't understand it. Because I'm limited in my understanding. It doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't change the facts. And that builds the acknowledgement. What's the side? Which means connection. Yisoid means you're connecting every part of yourself to godliness. In the Yisoid is all the 248 limbs. That's why through the Yisoid you create. That's the sexual organ that creates that could conceive, right? And then you're conceiving a full body, as Hashem. When you the idea is to connect all your limbs to Hashem. Which, like it's in the word in the davening, it's the coil. Everything gets connected by Hashem because you have everything connected to God. God is mirroring us. By day limit the Torah when a person learns with their mouth, that you're alive in the words that you give out. That you speak, and specifically in the learning, it's the oral Torah versus the written Torah, which is the Malchus Peh. When a person learns Torah, you build God's kingship. What does it mean to bring down into the system of creation, and specifically? Who in the worlds of separation it comes from Malchus. Malchus is the connection between the world of Atzilus and the world of Bria, of creation. That the end of Atzilus becomes the crown, which is the rule. Malchus is connected to the crown because the end of one world becomes the beginning of the next world, which is the Atik, which is the Keser of the world of creation, which is separation. This is what God's telling Moshe. Who gives mouth to man? What do we say the mouth is? The mouth is Malchus. That Moshe wants to understand that how could we reveal godliness in this separate world? God says, who made that there should be a Malchus? It's Anochi. Anochi means the essence of God. Malchus is connected to the highest point. That's the, so to say, the mouth of Adam Kadmon, first man. The way Atzilus is on its own, there's no way that Atzilus, which is all godliness, could go into the world of separation, where there's not obvious godliness, the world of the tribes versus the world of Yosef. It's because the crown element, Anochi, Hashem says, I'm who makes it that there could be, that godliness could go into this place of separation. Like God tells Moshe later in Parashat Balaischa, that Ayad Hashem Tikter, don't limit to what God could be. The Hainu, it's the essence of God beyond any of the attributes. The attributes of the system of attributes doesn't recognize something lower, doesn't understand how something godly could be in something ungodly. The world of separation, of creation is ungodly versus the world of Atzilus. But that's all the way it's in the sefirot. Hashem Anochi, The essence is beyond any kind of restrictions or definition. That's the keser. Keser is the uncounted number. That's why it's not one of the 10 sefirot and one of the 10 attributes. The idea is you do it. That the crowns are connected to each crown is connected to the crown above it. It's not that the crown is only a culmination of the spheres before it. It's connected to the idea of beyond. A crown represents like a crown sits on top of the head. The crowns is the concept of beyond. So even the crown of the lowest world is connected to the highest crown because it's the idea of something that's beyond that comes into space. It's connected to the idea of keser. And the idea of keser is that something beyond can go into something lower. The keser elin nui keser malchus. That's the idea. That the keser, one idea, because keser by definition is the outer space, and the outer space is connected to a higher outer space, to something that's beyond. If you're going to have to take from the keser, going through the midas, then you can say, okay, so the midas now in the atzilus, I could go in biyah. Atzilus is, oh God, the biyah separation. But the keser is directly connected to the higher keser, and the keser of atzilus, to the keser of Ein Sof, which means the idea that something that's godly goes into creation. Because as far as the essence is concerned, any kind of definition is limited. That chachma is more further away from the keser, from the crown, right? How could you compare intellect? If you think about it, the idea of a crown, it doesn't even have any connection. Keser, malchus chachma is closer connected to the attribute of speech of malchus than it is to keser, because they're all within the structure. Keser is beyond the structure. And the kesers have a connection to each other more than they have to the attribute of chachma. In order for taka that there should be a revelation, you can't have the klipa, the negative forces, together with godliness. There's always there's a fight. When Esav's on top, Yaakov's down. How could you build Jerusalem? Tzor has to be destroyed. That's why, again, we're asking the question, why do we have to have these miracles? Because these miracles were not just miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu saved. In the details of the miracles is the message. Therefore, the whole population had to become deaf and mute and blind. Meaning to say that all the different levels of functionality of klipa had to be closed down in order for Moshe Rabbeinu to be a peh, to be the mouth, to come into the world of Bria. Therefore, when Moshe says to Hashem, I'm going a little fast, but we want to finish the Maamar now. We're going to be starting with the well-known Maamar from Tafshin Yud Beis in Parshas Ve'era. It's called the Frum of Vayera. It's a beautiful, fantastic Maamar. Bez Hashem, I'll post the times. Hopefully, we'll start on Monday, if not Tuesday. This is what it means. Moshe says at the end of this week's parsha, meaning with tonight, Motzei Shabbos of Shmois, that Moshe says, I'm not a person of words. I have a hard time with my mouth and my tongue. Who makes that a person can communicate? That Malchus could go into Bria. Who makes it that the forces of evil should be deaf or should be mute? Moshe is looking at what's going on. How can you want me to go penetrate Egypt? Look what kind of strength they have of impure energy, of klipa. Shal Beis Shelas. Moshe had two fundamental issues. Ha'alef, the first question is, Moshe is the world of Atzilus. Atzilus is beyond any kind of world of separation. How do you want me to bring the revelation of Atzilus into the world of separation? That was his first question. Shaizi, you read that. It's too low, it's too much of a descent. That was his first issue. That's what he says. I'm not a person of words. Words means to communicate from the world of Atzilus into the world of Bria. The second issue he had was, it's a very strong klipa in Mitzrayim that's going to prevent whatever it is, however you figure that I'm going to get into the world of Bria. I'm going up against a strong klipa over here of Mitzrayim. God said two answers. The first answer is, you don't limit. God made the mouth. God makes, don't tell God don't ask God how we're going to communicate from Atzilus to Bria. It comes from Anochi, which is beyond any kind of limitations. The Sharish Haglun Biyahu in Bechinas Keser Aliyah. It comes from Keser, and therefore it doesn't have to go to the Seder Shtalshus, to the chain of creation. But mine al shel sabez in the second question, mi yasam ilam mecherish. God answers that who you're worried about, the klipa Mitzrayim. Who decides if the klipa has a koyach or not? I could decide if they're going to be mute and deaf. Or evil, they're going to be blind. Basically, a guy saying is you're concerned of the power of the klipa. I'll break the klipa. What's pikeach? Pikeach means who's the wise person? It's Moshe Rabbeinu. The Moshe is the wise person to get everything done through the koyches of Hashem. Who made you think? Who gave you the wisdom? That's a good idea. This is the time to run away. Hashem put that thought in your mind. Because Moshe is the one who has to bring the Torah into this world. Like we said, then he was healed. Moshe's job is to bring Torah down. That since Moshe's main thing is to bring Torah, therefore Moshe was able to speak. It wasn't necessary. Moshe's speech impairment was he was able to do what he had to do with Egypt without having the speech. Because the main part of Moshe is not the idea of the breaking Egypt, but mainly to bring Torah down to the world. When they had to be Egypt, that they should leave Egypt. Starting from Moshe running away, God said, don't worry. To get through the Yetzias Mitzrayim, we'll get through it. Either Pharaoh will understand you with your speech impairment, or you'll be okay for a little bit. But your main avodah is to bring Torah, and now you'll be healed with Matan Torah. But fundamentally, the point is that your job to bring Atzilus, the light of beyond the world of Bria, into Bria, you've been given the power because all the obstacles and all your concerns are dealt with. Egypt is going to be blind and mute and deaf, and you're going to have a mouth to be able to communicate. It doesn't get fully healed until Matan Torah. Then it becomes the main thing is the idea is to bring the Torah down. That the Torah, your Torah of Atzilus, us, we're in the world of Bria. Until the world of Asiyah. So too when Mashiach comes. Moshe is the Gal Rishon and Garachin. That through Mashiach there's going to be the revelations and another revelation. Just like the revelation of Matan Torah is going to be the revelation of Primus Torah in this world. All the way down. Matan Torah is only the revealed parts of Torah. When Mashiach comes, is Gal Tamid Torah. We're going to have not just the laws, but the reasoning. When you Primus Torah, that means the Primus Torah. All right, I'm happy we able to get this within the framework of Shemais. And again, I'll post for the next Maamar, Be'ez Hashem, either Monday or Tuesday. Good vach.